Hello and welcome to MotorInc First. We are talking about another KTM adventure.
Another week, another adventure.
But this is something that a lot of you are asking for, and I was also quite interested to know more about because this is the baby adventure, so to speak.
Yeah. And the delays are in the test bike, not the bike. So this bike has been on sale for a while, but
Okay.
we've only just got the test bike.
So I'll set the lay of the land. We've had the 390 adventure come out in the two guises that it's available in, and the 250 seems like it has all the adventure parts that you would want from an adventure bike with milder performance. And to me, that doesn't sound like a bad thing.
Hello, I was not interested in it at all.
You were not?
If it wasn't for the number of posts we saw on motoring circles saying,
Mm.
but what about the 250 adventure? Honestly, I don't know that I would have asked Bajaj saying, hey, listen, what's happening with the 250 adventure? Can I get a bike or not?
Okay, why is that? Is the price differential not much between the
No,
two?
see, when I look at the 250s, I always consider the idea saying this will be new rider friendly with a lot of headroom to grow.
Correct.
But the 390 Adventure X is already that bike because of the street mode. It's a super mild 40 bhp bike.
Mm.
So when somebody says, can I get a Street 400 as a first bike?
Mm.
I am not too concerned
Mm.
because when you start to get serious performance out of a Speed 400, there is vibration enough on that bike to let you know that you're doing something beyond the ordinary and normal, right? There's an indication saying, pay attention now.
Vibration as a safety mechanism.
Well, it's not ideal, but it does happen,
Yeah.
right? But when you take it to the Scrambler 400X, which also has the vibration at some level, but it's a larger, slower moving, calmer machine. So it gives you headroom.
Mm.
And on the KTM Dukes, we come back to the 250 because the 390 gives you no headroom.
Mhm.
And therefore, even when you say I am experienced, I have a lot of bikes, I still won't have three more questions before I say, yeah, okay, maybe you should get it, right? So from that perspective, what is the role of the 250 Adventure if you take price out of the equation for a minute? The 390 Adventure X is exactly there, sitting there, doing exactly that role.
Okay, you're saying because the 390 Adventures performance characteristics are significantly different from the Duke, which is a very on kind of
Correct.
motorcycle, and this is kind of a calmer and
Yeah, because
easier to ride bike.
the 390 Adventure X doesn't let you build to 46 bhp quickly.
Mm-hmm.
It takes its own sweet time to get there,
Mm.
but it is a reasonably quick motorcycle, so you're not dying of boredom on the way
Right,
there.
right.
So to me, I'm still going to say that I think the conclusion we will reach at the end of this motoring first is that there is a price delta. It is not a small price delta anymore because of the electronics being added back to the Adventure X and all of that. But I still think that's the default adventure motorcycle in the KTM lineup, and it's not the 250 Adventure.
Thank you for watching.
Honestly, I mean, to me, if you don't want to watch this whole thing, don't. My conclusion is please stretch. I've ridden this motorcycle 170 kilometers. I've done all the usual things that we do with these motorcycles except for taking it off road. And my conclusion is I think I would stretch 45,000 rupees. If it took 2 months extra collecting money or whatever, I would do
Oh, the
that.
difference is only that much.
Yeah,
40, 45.
yeah. Post electronics, pre electronics, it was less, it was 30K.
Oy. Okay.
That's why. So because the price difference in especially in EMI breakup terms is not significant, I'm not convinced I would be recommending you buy a 250 Adventure in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Not unless you are coming from a point of saying, listen, I can't make that 40K at all. I am stretching to get to a 250 Adventure. To me, that's the use case for that bike, and that's it. And that's not to mean that it's a bad bike. I'm just saying there is a better bike than this.
Okay, let me try and look at it from the upside of it. It is cheaper, and you will clarify on the next few points. It is still a easy motorcycle to ride
Sure,
from the 250 performance standpoint, so it
sure.
won't feel intimidating,
No,
but it won't feel lacking either on the motorcycle.
no. Okay. Let's look at the hardware. You will immediately understand where this is going.
Huh.
This motorcycle is exactly identical to the 390 Adventure X
Without the
minus the
electronics.
electronics. It's exactly the same bike.
Mm.
It has those wheels, so 19 front, 17 rear,
Alloy wheels.
alloy wheels. It has those tires, which is the Apollo Trampler XR.
Mm.
Hugely good tire.
Mm.
I've used it a lot now. I'm frankly telling you, it's one of the best tires I've tested in the recent past.
Mm.
And by all counts, on the road, off the road, everything.
Sorry, just since you brought this up, yours is the Adventure S or whatever
Same
you call
tires.
it, right? So
But I
the
have a 21 front, but the
21
same
front,
tires.
but they're the same pattern, everything.
Everything is the same. Okay, so great tires. Now, you have the same brakes as the 390 Adventure X also.
Mm-hmm.
You have the same dual channel ABS as the 390 Adventure also.
Mm-hmm.
You have the same quick shifter up and down as the 390 Adventure X also.
Mm.
So the only electronic difference is now the 390 Adventure X gets cruise control.
Right.
Because of the IMU, it gets lean sensitive traction control and ABS, whereas this motorcycle only has ABS, on which you can only turn the rear off. That's it.
Mm. Okay.
Body panels, same. Handlebar,
Color
same.
option.
Color options, very similar, but the 250's back parts are black, whereas the 390 Adventure X has colored panels. So if it is a white front, then it's an orange back, it's an orange front, it's a white back. Here you have orange and black, but the back panels remain black.
Black.
Okay, it's not a bad thing because the black seems to show the scuffs less. So if you want your bike to look cleaner for longer without you putting in the effort to it, uh, use that. And this KTM plastic thing, I'm not going to go into, because in all of the FAQs about these adventures on the app, in the FAQ set is an FAQ about the plastics, why they are the way they are, why they behave the way they do, what the advantages of that are, and how to keep them clean and shiny and polished or whatever. There's the same FAQ 4 times in 4 different places. So please look it up. These are good plastics, but they don't behave the way you expect them to, is the point that we need to understand. So in there, in the same frame as the 390X, as I said, goes the KTM Duke's engine exactly as is down to the throttle map.
Oh.
The
Okay.
only change there is the gearing is different. Like they did on the Adventure versus Duke, here also it's a +3 rear sprocket, so the gearing has been lowered.
Mm.
Here start the problems of this motorcycle. Now on the 390 Adventure X, you have the street mode as your only riding mode. The street mode has basically a 3-step throttle map. Bottom step is very mild throttle response, then a little bit more aggressive, and then finally something approaching what you would call aggressive is how that throttle map works. The 250 Adventure feels like that, but has less performance.
Mm.
Although technically it has the same throttle map as the Duke 250 does, which is relatively speaking the most linear throttle map
Correct.
KTM seems to make today. But when you add that to a motorcycle that's 15 kilos heavier, the result is not a motorcycle that at first, second, and third glances feels like it has any performance at all. It just feels easy, calm, laid back, and slightly sleepy. Like,
Mm.
frankly, the last 170 kilometers I've ridden this bike, I have mostly been this close to bored. And that's because I do expect a 250 with 31 bhp to finally go at some point. But it is so far away from the bottom that I can't see the point of it.
This is very interesting because when our first, even I rode the adventures when they came, and the thought was that this performance is not how you think about the KTM's traditionally to be. It's a far, let's say, cleaner, flatter kind of thing, right? It's not. It doesn't get frantic suddenly and
Correct.
stuff like that. And so when you take that same mood and apply it to the 250, I
Correct.
get what you're saying. That
Yeah.
it might almost like be distracting to be on the bike because you're disinterested.
Yeah. And to me, I think this bike, if it had the more aggressive off-road style mode that we get on the Adventure, where the throttle response is a lot more alert, I think this bike would actually start to feel much nicer to ride.
Hmm.
Because it almost in hindsight, it occurs to you that there is no actual lack of performance.
Mm.
Because it's not like you're struggling down the highway.
Mm.
If I'm going down the highway with a group of friends and they have the 390s and I have a 250 Adventure, we're all cruising at 80, 100 roughly with the same amount of effort.
Mm.
They are passing things a little bit quicker than me for sure, but it's not like I'm failing to pass anything.
Right.
So 31 bhp is genuine, but the build up to it takes so long.
Mm.
It's like watching a movie with a great climax, but there's 9 hours of movie to get through before you get there,
I get it. I get it.
right?
Because now it's almost like the 390's additional grunt over the 250 is an asset given the mood that the performance mood that these bikes seem to have.
Correct.
Because it just makes those overtakes no work, whereas in this you will work a bit.
Yeah, you have to do this because you have to get to that point where the throttle man finally says, "Oh, you really want to go? Okay, fine, let's go." And at that point, the reluctance goes away. But up to that point, the bike is just like, "Yeah, bro, we'll chill, bro." It's like an American teenager from the proverbial sitcom.
And in this 170 kilometers, did you think fuel efficiency difference was a
Yeah,
significant enough?
100%. This bike can always return 4-5 kilometers per liter more.
Ah,
Same riding conditions.
right.
So if you ride normally, the 390s will show you, I'm going to say 25, 26, sometimes lower if you ride aggressively. This bike seems to go to 30 almost immediately and
Oh.
sits there. So it's not like on the highway suddenly you'll get to 35, you'll get to 32, 33. But at 30 on a 14.5 liter tank, you're already looking at a motorcycle that will go 400 kilometers down the highway before you say, I should get fuel now.
Mm.
So we're in a good place on that front.
Mm.
So there is a fuel economy advantage to it. And I'm telling you this, let's assume that you're coming up from a 150cc bike to a 250. On day one, you may not agree with me that this is feeling sleepy. And I have the same fear that I had for the Speed 400 with the 250 Adventure. That 6 months from now, you would not be wanting to deal with this motorcycle at that level. I think Bajaj, KTM India, KTM Martighofen could have afforded to make the bottom end of this a lot more robust in terms of response and allowed it to be a little bit more boisterous. It does not have the power for it to feel dangerous or hairy at that point of time. It would just feel normal.
Is this also exported to any other markets?
So the 250cc KTMs were created for Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia has a 250cc tax brake law, which is very similar to our sub 4
Sub
meter
4 meter.
car law, and it's that reason why the 250 suddenly were created. But if you look at the other side of the world, KTMs are 125s, 200s, 390s.
Hmm. Exactly. So it just seems to kind of feel like it's meant to fit in somewhere else and not necessarily be the primary. I mean, it's not primarily targeted for our market.
Yeah. So to me, if you were to buy a 250 Adventure, I think you're buying a very nice bike because all the other aspects of the bike are more or less in the same place. But if you have this thought in the back of your head saying, I want an adventure tourer that I'm going to ride a lot and I'm going to ride it a lot over a long time,
Ah.
250 Adventure might not be enough engine for you to use and have fun with.
I'm going to draw a parallel here. This is something we keep saying about when we are talking about cars, because that's a really big investment. And often you'll say, I don't need to go for that. The next step, maybe it's the transmission or maybe it's the engine. And you'll say it's not really needed because that additional cost won't be justified. But trust me, the thing you will realize over time is that when you make these kind of decisions with your eyes open, and maybe if you need to spend a little bit more, you do that, what you will get is a better return on investment because then you will end up staying with that vehicle for longer instead of feeling like 2 3 years down the line that acha bus, I'm done now, I need an upgrade.
Correct.
2 3 years typically is too soon to want an upgrade from a bike that's great. You'll find you'll have many more years with great motorcycles being able to do many more things again and again. And
And yeah, and he said this before in the context of cars. If you look up his story on, I think, the Quid versus the Alto,
hmm,
what he says on the Quid versus the Alto is nice car, nice car. These are the positives. Maybe you want to buy an entry level compact SUV instead. The headroom to live with that car lasts longer as you grow into the idea of I'm a driver, I do these things with my car, my family likes my car for these reasons. Those cars have more latitude to accommodate those requirements. So you'd enjoy your Alto or Quid, but you'd run out of capability earlier. And at that upgrade point, you would have spent more money than you did the first time around, is exactly what I'm also saying, right? There are also other small issues. One, this engine overall feels a little bit smoother than the 390 engine to start out with, but it feels like that middle vibration that the 390 engine has. It has every single one of those vibrations, but it's compressed into 500 RPM,
what RPM range is
5,000 to 5,500,
that? And that is,
exactly where you are much of the time, right? And
I just knew it
to
went
the
to
point where
250.
I went to KTM service and asked them to ride the bike and double check that this was how the 250s were, and they said yes, this is how the 250s are. But I cannot describe it more than with the first time you hit it, the feeling that you get is your foot pegs are going drrrr, and then when you close the throttle and you come back down the throttle, there's the drrrr again.
This is like that resonance wala feeling, na?
It's a very strong vibration.
I know what you're
It's a
talking
very strong vibration. I don't necessarily think it's a deal breaker, but it is a huge annoyance to the point where it is more annoying than the 390 Adventures vibration because that's lower amplitude spread out over a wider spread. This is just specific to those 500.
about.
And at the end of those 170 kilometers, I was out on the highway. I would basically stay in fifth longer and not go to sixth.
Okay.
Until in fifth, I had reached 6.5 hours, whatever. And then I'd shift down knowing that now the
You'll
shift
be
point
out of that zone.
will bring me to 5,600 RPM minimum, right? And when you try to push this motorcycle faster, again, remember, this is a smaller engine than the 390 as a reference point. It has 31 bhp, that's 15 bhp less, right? From 7,000 RPM, you can feel the vibration and the sense of strain coming. Okay, it's a little bit of vibration in the foot peg, it's a little bit of vibration in the handlebar. It's nothing that will interrupt your flow, but will it feel like it is robustly, authoritatively going up to its red line? No, the 390s do that. The 250 does not do that. That's the other reason to not get this bike. If you're going to tomorrow discover that you do like to cruise and you're a reasonably quicker rider than normal, etc., you've worked hard to create that skill, that safety that is required for you to operate like that, then this motorcycle will not have enough performance for you.
Okay.
Okay, again, underneath that is exactly the same motorcycle as a 390 Adventure X. The capability set is almost the same, enhanced by the extra on the engine, that's what I would get instead. The other reason to also do that, unfortunately, is they have the exact same suspension units in the exact same state of tune. But this motorcycle is 5 kilos lighter than the 390 Adventure. So suddenly it feels like everything is a little bit stiffer.
Uh-huh.
Not a deal breaker. No lack of capability. If you go through the bumps harder, everything seems to work.
Right.
But the 390 Adventure X has almost the plushness of the Himalayan because the weight and the preload and everything settles in. This motorcycle's got little too much.
What is the difference in weight you said? Just 5. Oh. And they haven't retuned it or anything.
No, they said that this was designed to fit both of these motorcycles because again, the 390 will go everywhere.
Right, right.
It's not just an India product, the X, which was the last time. This is a global product, this X. So this 250 is a sub product, as it were. So they didn't think that it needed another set of suspension tuning. And if you remember, what I said was the 390 Adventure S Indian with the adjustable suspension and the X, they have different preload settings, and the X runs a higher preload. It's also running the higher preload on the lighter machine. So everything just feels like it's giving me more feedback. It's jarring through everything. Takes a while to work out that it doesn't take any strain from it though, because it still has 200 millimeters of suspension travel, and you can bash it through bad roads really hard. It doesn't take any stress from it, and all of those qualities are there. But on the X, it's obvious that these qualities are there. On the 250 Adventure, it takes you a moment to realize that those abilities are there. Which means if you're the average rider, let's call it 65, 70 kilos, suspension's not immediately going to feel like it's wonderful. If you're 90 kilos or 100 kilos, it is going to feel like it works. But at 100 kilos, is 31 bhp and sleepy throttle map going to be enough to make you feel happy that you bought a big premium bike? That's basically where the uh, story goes and gets stuck.
Also, one more thing I remember from the X that the brakes used to have this little bit of.
The 250 Adventure still gets what Bajaj likes to call high mu organic brake pads, what I like to call per Q organic brake pads, because this is not a confident braking machine, despite the fact that it has exactly the same hardware as the other machine. So if you're buying this bike, please prepare to spend 2,800-ish rupees and change this brake pad. My solution always is take this brake pad, put it in a piece of plastic and put it in your touring gear as your backup brake pad just in case, and never go back to these again if you can avoid it.
Right.
But it's an unnecessary cost cutting. Not a single one of the bikes Bajaj has recently made, under whatever brands they make them, has had this per Q organic front brake pad and produced a good result. So to me, just don't do it.
Because there was the one thing on the X that I was just like, nah, this, like, it got in the way by the end of the. I rode it up from Mumbai to Pune and back.
No, I'm telling you this. In the first 30 kilometers, I had moments where I didn't think it was going to stop in time.
Like, it just gets in the way of you flowing smoothly with the bike, because
Yeah.
every time you're like kind of waiting, is it gonna, is it gonna, is it
Yeah,
gonna?
it's like, see, I'll say this. At the racetrack, when we are teaching, we say that think about your bike as a 100 bhp bike, and therefore your brakes are 200 bhp brakes. And that balance is what makes a motorcycle feel confident so that you can go and you can stop and all of that kind of thing. It's like with these bikes, it feels like it's a 31 bhp bike with 25 bhp brake pads, right? So the first 30 kilometers for me is just calibration.
Yeah.
And that calibration is frightening because every single time you anticipate a braking distance and the bike fails to meet your expectation. It's not dangerous, but this is unnecessary.
Yeah, I get it.
Right? Okay. Now, the digital dash is the same, but obviously the number of things in those menus are fewer because this bike has fewer features. It's still that same extremely powerful headlight. This powerful headlight is adjusted a little bit too high as stock because that's what the legal requirement is. If you buy the motorcycle, lower the headlight, you will get a much more powerful low beam and a much more effective high beam out of it. It's one of the best. It is the best motorcycle headlight as far as I can tell right now. The screen, I love it. You can see through it. I've learned to put a ceramic based polish on it for the reins, and that seems to clear water much faster. It doesn't interrupt your vision. Muck doesn't settle on it quite so quickly. And only some really tall riders and some really short riders are reporting buffeting issues. Most of the riders seem to be quite happy with how the screen works. It's not a crisis at all, right? Switch gear, no changes. It's nice and clicky, very easy to use. I love the 4 shortcuts that KTM gives you at the bottom. So you can basically select what 4 data points are shown to you at the bottom of the screen, and you can select whatever you feel like. There's a selection of that you can make from it.
I'm sorry, I've forgotten about the screen. The screen is a LCD, like it's
It's
a
a proper color TFT, non-touch bonded screen, very bright,
nice.
super easy to read in all conditions, and mounted on that tower, so it's right under your vision. It's beautiful. It's beautifully done. I think the only thing I can now think of in hindsight, what I might want to change, I'm not convinced I would want to, is I might want that favorites bar to go to the top of the screen rather than sit at the bottom,
So it's a quick peek.
so that I can quickly peek at it and go back
Yeah.
to it.
Okay.
That's maybe the only change I'd like to make, but honestly, I have no real complaints with this screen. I would also like KTM to lock the menus at speed, which they don't. You have full access to all your menus at all speeds. I don't think that's a great idea. I will admit that I have used this ability to mess with the motorcycle as I learn my KTM 390 adventure, but I don't think that this is a good idea. Menu should be locked down, and I think the global big bike sort of seems to be 15 kmph, where below 15 kmph you can basically do whatever you want in the menus. Once the bike goes past 15, it just resets back to the shortcuts if they're available, like ABS or traction control or riding modes, and that's it. So to me, these fully open menus, I am not convinced is a good idea. And the more I ride my KTM, I am convinced this is not a good idea. It takes too much attention away. Seat, exactly the same as the 390 Adventure X seat,
Which means a
which
little slim.
means it's a little bit skinny feeling initially, but that feeling will go away. You will get adjusted to it. Don't modify your seat on day one because you heard this. Please don't do it. There is a slope in the seat which is actually a bigger issue than the width of the seat or the foam on the seat. The foam is firm. Foam works really well. It takes a while to settle down. Pillion seat is flat. They will be okay. It's not super spacious like a Himalayan can be, but it's not super cramped either. But the slope in the rider seat is definitely going to cause aches and pains. If you go to circles, in my profile is a post on how I modified my seat. It's not an expensive mod. It's an extremely effective mod. Uh, and I think it takes 20-30 minutes for a seat guy to achieve, and it raises your seat height 3-4 mm max. Essentially, I take a point at the seat step and I flatten the seat out till the frontal wherever it can. So I have a flat perch in the middle. It's not sloped this way or this way. And then I can choose whether I want to sit here or there because the rider seat is long.
Have you got pics of the in-between process?
I don't, unfortunately, but
Oh,
but I have pictures of both the seats before and after, and you can immediately see that the slope has disappeared, and it looks like there was a hole in the ground, as it were, and I just filled soil and I flattened the top of it.
got it.
That's
Nice.
that's all I've
Okay.
done. It's very easy to do, and it is really effective, completely cost effective. Sometimes designers are trying to get a bike to look right, and they do these weird things to seats. And sometimes engineers don't find the authority or the place to be able to tell the designers, yeah, but you're messing up a rider's experience for life. Please, let's be more rational about seats.
Mm.
My reference point for touring seats is always going to be the same. They need to be roughly parallel to the ground. There should not be any slopes in it. They should be firm foam, which will cost you a lot of pain and aches for the first maybe 1500, 2000 kilometers, and then you'll never think about that seat again, which is the ideal way to do it. Right? And third, beware of seats that kick up at the end, because if you sit back against that, the pressure on your tailbone comes from sitting against that. That tailbone will start hurting. It has nothing to do with the seat, it has to do with the step. So everybody thinks that they're having a little bit of cushion like this at the back is helpful to the rider. It's not. There is a personal preference angle to it, but most of the time it's not.
The V-shaped seats, the issue will be that you'll end up
In the
being
V,
locked into.
the V.
Yeah, you'll be locked in one place, and you might think that, hey, it's good, it's cradling you, but that much of contact also makes it a little bit like he spoke specifically about the end, about the tailbone aspect of it. So that's that much more contact all the time, and it does get tiring.
Yeah, so I was out riding with the boys, and among the bikes were my KTM Adventure with the modified seat and this 250 Adventure with no modifications at all. In the rough, looser corners on my bike, I could get right up onto the tank, as it
Uh,
were, right? Because it was a flat seat
flat
right to the
seat,
front.
yeah,
So I can go up there and put more weight on the front end and push it into the ground, as it were,
yeah.
right? On the highway, 160 kilometers of it, then I did the exact opposite,
You
where I
move back.
moved all the way till the back,
Yeah.
almost practically to the point where my back touches my luggage, which I absolutely hate as an experience. I don't like my luggage touching my back, but almost that far back, set cruise control on the 390 Adventure S,
Mm.
and sit in a very comfortable and wide open riding position. But when you have a slope in the seat,
You
you're going
don't
to
have that
try
option.
this and then slide back into the bottom of the V and never move from there again.
Yeah.
And that is an unnecessary thing that a designer created, has nothing to do with function, right? Body panels are exactly the same. So when you ride, they look dirty, they scuff up, they clean up. As I said, there's an FAQ that explains why this is like this, so I'm not going to go into
This
it.
is super interesting. You must catch that FAQ because you should understand how it works.
Yeah. Remember, this is one of the most function-oriented products that KTM has made and brought to India so far. The Duke is sort of like this, but it's not
Yeah.
as hardcore as this. When they create a hardcore RC, today's RCs are not as hardcore as the first one used to be. When they create a hardcore RC, it will again be a function-oriented product. But when you take an adventure tourer style machine and try to focus it on having genuine durability and genuine travelability, stuff like the plastics has to go to a completely different place. It's awesome to do. And when you see that, you'll realize don't spend money on crash protection. You don't really need it. Okay. So, in summary, This is basically the same bike. There is no surprises on that front, apart from the fact that I think suspension, especially the front, should have been tuned further. Rear preload is usually in the middle. It's a 10-step preload rear shock. I think you can lower the rear preload and get a benefit out of it. Front will be much harder to do, which is unfortunate. Everything else is exactly how you experience on the larger bike.
Okay. I think my questions were also answered. Whatever I needed to know.
Hmm.
Sorted.
Yeah.
Quick summary.
Sure.
All right.
Ooh, in 26 minutes even.
This
Dude.
we should have started this episode saying this was short.
I think it's short because we didn't
We
commit to
didn't
it.
say it. Okay. Today we are talking about the KTM 250 Adventure, and this is the baby of the Adventure family, which means I had a lot of expectations from it in the sense that it would feel like a proper adventure. This is based on the 390 Adventure X variant of that lineup. And the good news is, it is exactly like that bike in terms of the chassis, the suspension, the wheels, the tires, the brakes, all of that is the same. There is no change. So if you want to go off road, there is a lot of inherent ability. What you get, what's changed, the big change, of course, is the engine. This is the 250cc engine that we've seen on the Duke. And I think you have to understand where this engine comes from, because in Europe, you'll find the 125 and 200 KTMs and the 390s, and it's only for the Southeast Asia market that the 250 was really required, and that is what it was created for. And so in that sense, it's kind of like a special kind of bike that works. And why that explanation is important is because the difference between this 250 Adventure and the 390 Adventure X is only about 40,000 rupees. And that is now, after the X became the X Plus, with the cruise control coming in.
It's not officially the X Plus though. The X Plus is how they're calling it. So
Oh, really? Oh.
I swear this time 2025 for KTM's names has just been atrocious. Okay.
So I
So
blame.
the Enduro is a dual sport.
uh,
The S is the Adventure.
uh,
The X Plus is still the X. The X doesn't exist anymore because it's been replaced by the X Plus, which is the X.
X.
And then the Adventure has no suffix at all.
Yeah, which I just called S. Like, okay, so this is on circles because whoever was posting about it started calling it X Plus. So in my head, it's the X Plus.
It's what the dealers called it.
Oh, really? Oh, because I just saw somebody's post saying the X Plus is
No,
coming.
so when I bought my 390 Adventure, there's a lot of documentation that calls it the Adventure S.
Oh, it does.
But officially, it's not the
It's
Adventure
just
S
the
because
390
S in KTM means something completely
Right.
different, means alloy wheels.
Okay.
So this khichdi of names that has happened this time, actually more suffixes than names more often than not, but the khichdi of names is just epic for 2025.
So okay, so it's still the X, and the X now has got cruise control and more electronics, which means it's got lean sensitive traction control as well, which is why the price has gone up, and rather the price gap between the 250 Adventure and the 390 Adventure X has gone up, and gives this a little bit more value factor to it if you wanted an adventure and didn't have a budget. And that's what Shumi said right at the start, that the primary reason to buy this bike would be that you cannot stretch for the 390 Adventure X. And the reason to say that is because this 250cc engine was a very friendly engine and great for a Duke kind of scenario, where the 390 was a bit too extreme and a bit hard to recommend to intermediate or early stage riders. But that problem has kind of been ironed out with the 390 Adventures, where they, by default, feel quite linear and easy to ride. You don't feel them as overwhelming 44 horsepower motorcycles. They're just motorcycles that are easy to ride and with immense travelability. It really takes a lot to kind of provoke them to feel aggressive. They can if you wanted to, but that's not the default. So, which is why for that 40,000 rupee delta, you could be getting a motorcycle that you would be using easily enough and be able to grow with for much longer than you would with a 250 Adventure. Having said that, the 250 Adventure was a sweet engine, and in this motorcycle, it is still a friendly engine, but it has lost some of its charm. And this is me translating Shumi's experience, because in the 250 Duke, it still felt like it felt like a nice engine, but it was still a engine you enjoyed riding. Whereas here, it's starting to feel a little bit sleepy, just a little short of sleepy. And I get that, because if the adventure platform can do that to the 390 engines, then the 250 will definitely feel a lot more than just calm. On the flip side, it's easy to ride. It can cruise. It can overtake, which means you will be able to, when you go off road, you will be able to thrash this around. That will not be a problem. What you will need is a bit more effort, which means you'll have to work the gears when you want to do quick moves, because that power is going to feel a little bit softer than what it was on the Dukes, and definitely softer than what the 390s have to offer. The other thing is that the brakes, which was slight because of the pads that were used on the X earlier, which were the high mu
पर क्यों?
per acha, chal, per Q uh,
पर
brake
क्यों?
brake
Organic
pads,
pads.
which were used on the X earlier, have been pushed down to the 250 Adventure, which means your connect and predictability with the brakes is not great. It will always feel a little bit soft and keep you kind of on the edge about how well it's going to work. The fix for that is easy. You go to the
KTM
brake
dealer.
pads. Sorry.
KTM dealer and get center
Yeah,
pads.
you get the sintered pads on the X already. You can just take those, get a aftermarket. I mean, from the dealership, you can get one and
3000 ish, I
replace.
think is.
Yeah, replace them. Problem solved. So it's a small price to pay to get a motorcycle that you will immediately feel a lot more connected to. The big advantage of this motorcycle for somebody who's from the value set thought process, aside from the price tag, is also the fuel efficiency, where the 390s manage about 24, 25 kmpl. This bike seems to go into the 30 zone immediately. And for those that are looking at KMPL as an important factor of the daily use case, that will definitely help. Aside from that, the other thing that's also directly carried over from the X is the suspension setup. And on the X, with the slightly higher weight, it kind of felt all right. It felt plush, actually, plush enough to be compared with the Himalayan, as Shumi mentioned earlier. But here on the slightly lighter bike, it's feeling a bit firm, to the point where you do end up feeling everything a bit more, and will make you think that this bike can't really be pushed or roughed around. But that's not the case. As you push harder, you realize that they have the suspension always with these this adventure family. We've seen that the harder you push it, the happier they seem to get. Like they just seem to do more work
Correct.
without you realizing it. And I'm guessing that's the same feel with
Yeah,
this.
but except that the 390s feel like they get going with absorbing things earlier.
Okay.
And the 250 is more like the previous generation adventure where you say, oh, there's a bad road, I'd better not slow down. Because if I slow down, I'm going to feel lots.
Oh,
If
okay,
I
okay.
don't slow down, it'll work. So the
Interesting.
250 sort of feels like that. Whereas the 390X and the 390S both like, yeah, okay, let's do this. And of course, the 390S lets you adjust it further to your liking or whatever. But this bike is just like, oh, and now you say, no, 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 I want you to do that. And you say that by opening the throttle more or keeping the pace more steady or whatever. Then like, yeah, okay, fine. Then let's handle it.
That's a great parallel. And on the touring front, I think we said that the performance is adequate for you to sit at 100, but the slight catch there is that it has densely packed zone of vibrations, which is between 5 to 5,000 RPM.
5,000 to 5,500. You said 5 to 5,000.
From 5,000 to 5,000 RPM. Okay. And that is the space that you will end up sitting at when cruising on the highway.
Yeah.
So what Shumi was doing was that he'd stick in fifth gear a little bit longer and make sure that he only shifts up to sixth gear when he's past that zone.
Yeah, so effectively on the highway, what that means is on a reasonably flat road. I was on a mountainy road, so I can't say reasonably flat without worrying about it a little. But let's say you'll get to about 75, 76 cruise, no vibration. And then the other side of that is, I think, 94 or something like that.
Okay.
So if you're between that and in sixth, you're going to feel this vibration. So the trick is don't shift into sixth until you get to 94. When you get to 95, shift into sixth, then you're on the other side of this vibration.
So when you're sitting at 100,
No
the
problem.
vibrations are not
There's
a
no
problem.
problem.
Right. So that's the good news, that cruising on the highway when you're easy riding, that will not be a problem. But the in between stages, you will feel it.
I am telling you, it of all the KTMs I've tested, and I know they have a reputation for it, these 500 RPM feel the worst of all of them since the beginning. Nothing has vibrated this much as I felt on this bike.
Okay. And that, from the touring standpoint, let's talk about the good stuff. The windscreen, like with the other adventures, is excellent. It really keeps so much wind off you. It's shocking.
But ventilation is there.
Correct. I mean, it's not that you get immediately hot or something like
No.
that. It's fine.
And it's not even backdraft coming into you. It actually works really well. It annoys me because my this pocket, the flap always starts to move in the wind, and I keep thinking something's happening there. It's loose. So when I ride my bike, I keep like, and then I realize it's just the wind.
So the windscreen is, I mean, there was this time when I rode it from Mumbai to Pune, and I left late in the evening, and I didn't have my clear visor. And so after it got dark, this was past Lonavala, and I remember I had to crack the visor open. And that time, the transition between daylight to dark is when you get all the bugs, right? And
Right.
you'll have red eyes by the time you get
Right.
home. It was that's why I always think of that windscreen, because I could ride and nothing got in my eyes.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah. It's very good.
Okay, headlamp, excellent. It is an excellent headlamp and continues same spec here for the 250 Adventure as well, which is how it should be. Just because it's a smaller motorcycle doesn't mean it should have inferior headlamps. And
KTM's Lego sets have advantages.
yeah, so that was that. And from a touring standpoint, you can have a pillion on board here, but it's not the most spacious setup if you're looking for a bike when you're traveling with two on board. Aside from that, what else? You spoke about the throttle, which you said has been slightly soft. Um, it's still a fun bike to ride. The tires are great. Apollo Tramplers, same spec, price, everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So the only thing that I'm thinking about now is that, so it looks like the entry level adventure tourer,
Mm,
which should be a 250.
mm,
They just don't seem to make a good one.
mm,
Think about the V-Strom SX.
mm,
It has a Suzuki Gixxer 250's engine in it. So nice.
mm,
It's a smooth engine. It works well. It's a reasonably fuel efficient engine. Blah 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 blah. They put the same suspension on it.
mm.
But then to give it off-road ability, they put a 19-inch front and tuned the suspension to be firm. So it is a nice bike. And it has exactly the same challenge as the KTM 250 Adventure, which is, you won't like it at the test ride. Persist with it. This is a nice Japanese bike. Take a while and then you'll
Right,
fall in love with it. And so many of you have told us on circles that this has happened to you, which is how my story was, my view
right,
story was.
right, right.
Then you take the KTM 250 Adventure, which should be the affordable adventure that doesn't have the problems of the Suzuki, because it's got longer travel suspension, it's got more ground clearance, got a 19-inch front wheel alloys. But the throttle map makes it not go. That's your first impression of it.
Mm,
Both of these bikes will do 100 down the highway steady, no issues. One is a 25 bhp bike and one is a 31 bhp bike. They're all in the same zone. But I keep feeling like somehow the 250cc adventure tourer is being cut down. And Suzuki doesn't give you a solution because they don't have a larger machine yet. KTM does have a larger machine which is 40,000 rupees away. It's almost like they don't want to sell these bikes.
yeah. This is the decoy.
Yeah, it's like the BMW 320i. You remember?
Why?
When BMW brought the 3 Series, the Indian assembled 3 Series for the first time, there was the under-equipped base level 320i. I mean, practically think of it like the Desire Tour version of the BMW 3 Series.
Uh,
And then there was a 320d which had everything.
okay, okay. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
the whole
Okay.
idea was, you come into the showroom looking at the 320i's price, then
Right.
you take a look at the 320i and buy a 320d and go, and I make a lot more on that.
Correct. Correct. Yeah. I think it makes sense, because unless you know that, hey, it can be disappointing, and then you see something good, there's like, oh, I want the good stuff. Yeah. So yeah, but this 250 Adventure, I think maybe the 250s have to just go hardcore, like for. But do you need that also now?
I don't want it to be hardcore. Look, what is the issue that I think KTM needs to attack on the 250 Adventure is very simple. Do not do the same suspension setup for a motorcycle that is lighter.
Mm,
One, so it needs a little bit of revaluation. It is probably just preload, but maybe the level of fluid in the front fork needs to come down a little bit, and the preload setting is at 5 and it needs to be at 3 instead. Not rocket science, but they didn't do it.
mm,
They need to attack the vibration significantly, because this vibration doesn't really exist on the 250 Duke in this kind of magnitude.
mm,
If you think about it, the Duke with the gearing is not vibrating as much as the 390 Adventures are. When you add the sides, when you add the center stand to it, the
yeah.
bar that connects the
Yeah.
foot pegs and the Enduro, all this seems to subside.
Right.
This bike has strong vibration in those 500 RPM. I don't think if it as a deal breaker, but it is extremely annoying to have, and it's sitting in a place where I am going to be very often, and I have to learn my way around it. Why should I have to?
Right. Right.
So in that sense, the 250 Adventure is a more complete adventure tourer than the V-Strom SX.
Mm.
But the V-Strom SX is also 50,000 rupees less expensive. It's 2.1 lakhs.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
So now you are going to be in a quandary, right? Do I
yeah.
take the super stiff suspension of the V-Strom knowing it will be reliable, etc., 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 and I save 50,000 rupees or whatever? Or do I go to the KTM, which has more capability and etc., 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 more performance, blah, 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 but it has that vibration, it has that stiffness? Oh God, where is the logical way to say, okay, sure, there's an obvious choice.
This is again that
What are we waiting for? The CB350X, the Himalayan Honda.
I was actually going to talk about it when you started speaking about the engine. Uh, And the one thing I didn't mention was the engine also will have that sense of buzz about it because it's the sprocket is 3 up,
Yeah,
so it's running at higher RPMs for the same speeds. The tune of the engine is the same. The thing that I wanted to talk about when you started discussing the engine was it's so incredible to think about it that every vehicle, right? There'll be that one sweet spot
correct.
where they are sweet, right? That it really, really does work for them.
Yeah,
Like whether you can think of the engine in one way, the chassis, the suspension, that it works for something beautifully. And like this engine in the 250 is like you'd say, what a lovely engine. Like
correct.
such a good engine, right?
Yeah.
That's what you'll think about it. But immediately it's gone to another format where it's having to deal with a bit more weight. When you think about 5 kilograms, 5 kilograms overall more,
Yeah.
it's not such a big deal.
5 from the 390, 15 from the Duke.
Sorry, 15 from the Duke. So
Yeah,
15 from the Duke. So it's 15 kilos heavier from the
yeah,
Duke. The rear is a 17.
yeah.
So the wheel that it's driving is
Roughly
roughly
the same size.
roughly
Yeah,
the same. But then it changes how it feels so
yeah. It
much.
has to work harder.
Yeah.
And you're trying to say, here's help to work harder by
Be-
giving you a +3 rear
because you
sprocket.
can think between you and me, the difference is 15 kilos,
Oh,
right?
is it?
Would be
Yeah, okay.
skinny man.
Hmm.
Yeah. So,
I don't know where he's going with this.
but the point is, within riders, that difference the engine would have to deal with any which way.
Yeah,
But inherently, what it does on the motorcycle,
yeah,
how it changes
yeah. This is
this.
why, to me, the spec sheet thing is dangerous. You don't pay too much attention to it. Go get a test ride instead. I know, I'm telling you, when you ride the V-Strom for the first time, you may not like it.
Mm.
When you ride the KTM 250 Adventure for the first time, I know you're not going to like it. From the V-Strom, the 390 Adventure X is a huge upgrade, but it's a massive price jump.
Yeah.
From the V-Strom to the KTM Adventure 250 is a reasonable price jump. I think you might be able to stretch to do it. But will you get a significantly better bike out of it? No, not yet. Ah,
But for somebody who wants to do off road,
Impulse 210, please.
that's the other one. Kata.
If that is your goal, where the travel is not central to what you do, to me, there are two bookends to this today, period. Expulse 210 if you're on a budget, Enduro 390R if you're not on a budget. I am not even saying the international model, although that's not a lot more expensive. I'm shocked how little KTM is asking extra for it. But to me, these are the two bookends of where the off-road spectrum is. This is cost-effective and fast, the 390 Enduro R. Little heavy, you learn. This is reasonably light, slow in the sense of calm and peaceful and torquey and not frantic. So it will let you learn. Every other motorcycle that you're thinking about typing is not in this class. There's a slow motorcycle that is sitting at this price, which I can't see the point of. And that motorcycle, what nobody's going to tell you is it is much more expensive to live with than these motorcycles. They've localized some parts of it, they've not localized some parts of it, but that brand always makes expensive things to live with in any case. Their service costs are always more expensive. So why do I want that motorcycle in my garage? No, I do not. I'd just get an Expulse instead. So
If you don't know which motorcycle Shumi's talking
oh,
about,
the KLX 230.
Lost an opportunity. I was going to say, come to Circles and ask. That would have been fun. What bike are you talking about? Yeah. Do you think they should do an SMC of the 250?
No,
No?
I am done with this. If the 250 if the 250 engine is going to feel this kind of sleepy, please don't do anything more. Please. I think the Duke 250 is a nice bike. And to me, unfortunately, that remains the nicest bike.
Okay. Cool. What's next?
No, I think that actually you're right. The 250 SMC might be fun. But I'm telling you, I'm so heartbroken with this 250 because it just doesn't go.
I feel it. Definitely feel it. I wish I'd ridden it just to understand exactly.
I think I still have it for testing before I do my view story. So
That's
maybe you
fine.
want to take it
Okay.
for a spin.
I'll take
Not after lunch though.
No. No.
After your first cup of coffee in the morning.
No.
At least one of the two of you will be awake. No, I know I'm exaggerating a little bit, but honestly, the Duke's linearity, the 250 Duke's linearity makes sense to me. Where it starts off gentle and builds up until you experience the whole 31 bhp, but it's a compact, lightweight, quick moving motorcycle and it fits. The engine's supposed to be like that, but the bike is bigger, bike is heavier, and it comes together as like, it doesn't go. Feeling. I'm not saying, again, I'm not saying that the numbers will not say that it goes. I'm just saying your feeling will be, what happened? Like, Zubin, right? Zubin rides peacefully, yeah. and he
because he chooses to.
right. And when you tell Zubin that my bike is he's a mechanic, and when you tell him, hey Zubin, my bike is fluttering at low RPMs, he'll go for a test ride and say, yeah, it is, or no, it is not, or whatever. But when you say, I have a problem when I go into sixth gear and at 7,000 RPM my bike does these things, then he'll sort of say, I'll take your word for it, because he doesn't have any interest in going fast anymore, right? He rode this bike because he was very excited about, oh, it's a lower price, 250 adventure, long travel suspension. Came back and said, boring. Came back and said, it's kind of boring, no?
Can imagine his
That's what.
expression.
That's why my fear is, if somebody who rides calmly and gently can't appreciate this bike's performance, then to me that throttle map is way too sleepy for this machine. And that's why I said that if it had a more convex throttle map,
I actually flashed to the Pulsar 400Z.
correct.
Uh,
If it had that kind of a more extroverted throttle map, which would sort of support the fact that this is a lower performance, smaller engine, etc., a very linear engine in character, I think this bike would have felt nicer.
okay, I think 15 kilograms. And the pressures of fuel efficiency have made certain calls along the way. Because imagine if it had that kind of a throttle map and its fuel efficiency was similar to the 390s, then it would be like, oh, dude. Take it. What's next for you?
We have the Triumph 400 Scrambler 400XC with us, the one with the tubeless wheels. I'm not convinced that we want to do a motoring first on it or not. If you would like to do that, leave a comment on this video or elsewhere on circles telling us that it is required. Because as far as I can tell, it's the same bike but with updated wheels. I've not checked the data, to be honest with you. I've just heard that sometime towards the end of August is when the Scram 440 test bike will finally come.
Oh,
Yeah, so I think they had a mechanical issue with the bike for some sort. It went into a loop, and now that loop has finally closed or whatever. So this Scram 440 will come. There should be the Cafe Racer version of the Triumph 400. I don't know what the name is yet, but that bike's supposed to come. Now the logical name is Thruxton, but I don't know what they're going to call it.
and is there no update from Suzuki about the prices of the E-Axis which you have ridden?
Hey, tell me this: we don't have prices of the E-Axis. Okay, and I'm desperate to discuss it because the Japanese idea of doing electrics is very different from what the Aethers and the Olas and the rest of the world is doing.
We've been sitting on doing that MotorInc First for a month and a half now.
Yeah, so if you let us know in a comment here would be very nice. Should we do the E-axis and assume 3 conclusions based on 3 prices that we assume?
Mm.
I think there is stuff there that we need to discuss. But without the price setting, context is impossible. But because of how long Suzuki is taking to get to the price, I think the best option we have to get it out. We can, of course, not do it completely, which would be more in consonance with what we do on Motoring First. But the other way I can think of is saying, okay, so this is the scooter. If it was 80,000 rupees, how do we feel about it? If it was a lakh of rupees, how do we feel about it? And this is 1,20,000 rupees, how do we feel about it? Tell us if you want us to run this as an experiment to try it out or not, because it's been now 4.5 weeks of having ridden the E-Axis.
Trust me, I've been dying to talk about it, and I have
Yeah,
I
and I
know
have
nothing about.
interesting data on it. Suzuki has one of the most comprehensive briefing documents that we've seen about electric vehicle in the recent past. There's a lot of interesting divergent ideas from how the Indian guys have so far approached electrics. It'll also give us a chance to discuss the rare earth magnets thing that is going on right now with China cutting off supply, etc. So there's a lot of masala, as it were, in this story. But until the price, I feel uncomfortable doing it unless you guys tell us that, yeah, we should do that.
No, we have tried that in the past, and we know where we. I mean, it became a stumbling block. The X Trail was the best example, right? But we could just go about it the other way and say that good if in this price range,
Yeah,
great if in this price range, and terrible if in this price range.
that's actually what I did with Suzuki. Suzuki. Yeah, Suzuki. And they said, so what did you think about the bike?
Oh, because they have,
Right?
right,
So
right.
you haven't given me a price yet, right? So if this is a 50,000 rupee scooter, you've blown my mind. Blown, bro. But if this is a 2.5 lakh rupee scooter, I don't think that you should have bothered.
Nothing extreme in that at all. Cool. Let's see what they say. We
Yeah.
can figure out. Yeah, maybe you should suggest bands. That would be actually be a great thing.
Bands.
Bands of prices.
Pink Floyd. There's only one band.
Okay, cool. There'll be a pink band, which will be the sweet band. Okay. Cool.
All right. If there's any questions more that you have about the KTM 250 adventure, please do leave us a comment. We prefer the app in the first order because we can respond and track comments there much closely than on any of the other platforms. But we do respond to, I think, 95% of everything that we get on all of our platforms. The weakest I think we are at is Instagram and Twitter, and that's not changing anytime soon. So to me, app first and YouTube next. On the app, you can leave a comment here on this video. You can post independently to Circles. The search engine is absolutely spectacular. We can find these comments. We can respond to it. No stress at all. Circles is free. MotorInc First is always free. And today, I think we have about 110 free episodes of MotorInc First in total on the app or something like that. It's crazy.
110 now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Alrighty then.
Disconnect Season 3 is also playing on the app. That is also free. When this airs, we should be doing episode 10 or 11, which means we are halfway through Season 3 at that point of time. Again, if you've not seen it, you should. And the new segment we introduced recently, which is working out really well for you and us, is Ask Motoring, where we take usually about 5 to 8 questions and convert that into a question and answer style video. But what you should know is a lot more Ask Motoring happens on Circles, where in text we're replying to a lot more people than the questions we actually take into the video itself. If you have questions, please come to Circles, completely free to use again. Sign up, you'll get a username. Come, post a question, hashtag Ask Motoring, and usually either Kartikeya or I or somebody from our team will immediately get on it and give you an answer. And Motoring fam is super helpful. They're super nice people. I love them. And they will also try and contribute how they have solved those kind of problems for themselves. It's amazing.
Coolish.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, that was the KTM 250 Adventure R. No,
Uh-huh.
not the R. So that was the KTM 250 Adventure. Thank you so much for watching.